welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Broiler Chicken Show, our weekend offering. Fun, party. Interesting times in the market right now. I've noticed that the public participation in the market and this whole venture, of sort of speculating, if you will, really trailing off. So I think, unfortunately, sign of the times. This 2020s decade is going to be a bit of a challenging decade anyway. Hats off to you, anybody who can actually stay focused through this period. And if you are, the way that I would describe this, and I've seen this repeatedly through my career, is our society kind of like, when we talk about these celestial events, there's supposed to be like 6 different ones all happening here, all in unison, which hasn't happened in human history in like a million years. Yeah, we had this sickness, right? We had, financial concerns. I think you can clearly appreciate how the banksters have really fucked up our society here. This is the sad part about this. Why when you that old expression, strong times make for weak men, then bad times make for strong men, or I guess good times make for weak men. And really, this is all comes down to 2 words: fear and greed. And sadly, of course, when there isn't much to be fearful of, these silly humans get just insanely greedy. And sadly, I think that the banksters and the banks, as sort of like the oligarchical sort of feeding levels of our society, they're obviously at the very top of the food chain with regard to the capitalists. They just get insanely greedy. And you could make the argument, I've always make this argument whenever I'm talking to somebody, that today's bull market actually sets up tomorrow's bear market. What's the cure for high prices? Anybody ever actually heard me say that? Do you understand what that actually means? What is the cure for high prices? Actually, I'm not sure whether this is a live chat or a different one. When somebody say something, I think I have to. Actually, I think this is an old one because I remember Michael making reference to the Rothschilds. So actually, here, I got to update this. Give me a second. So, everything moves in cycles. And I have just personally noticed in my career, I first got interested in this business back in the the late 70s, which I know sounds like a million years ago. That was sort of the heyday of Wall Street Week with Louis Rukeyser. Back when he was a young guy, and they were all high flying Wall Street mavericks, that whole generation of those baby boomers coming online and coming into their life. Of course, I was just a little kid, and my parents were actually part of that sort of intermediate generation between the First and Second World War. So they didn't really fit into the baby boomers. Ironically enough, my father's second wife or third wife, guy was such a philanderer. She was a baby boomer, and it's fascinating to watch her move through her life. Now she's basically in the latter twilight of her life, as they say. So everything moves in cycles, and what's quite remarkable is to watch, and especially a lot of you that are like super I can tell, ironically enough, I can actually tell. I could probably list off of like maybe a dozen or so people that I know will actually be, by the time you get to my age, you're going to actually be the people who are driving the bus of society. You don't even realize it now. Like I always go on about Sjord, TRI's CTO. And he's still a relatively young guy. He's got really young kids. I can easily see by the time he gets to my age, he's going to be a captain of this industry. I just hope if I'm darn lucky, I can still be a part of his life. DMAC over there on YouTube, I know he's definitely going to be a cornerstone of this whole society. But the interesting thing, Adam, another guy I can see over there right now that I know for certain, Oscar, another guy over there on YouTube. Actually, I can see a bunch of you. Actually, no, that's not. God, man, my eyesight's getting terrible. Anyway, so I guess what I'm trying to say here is we're in the very unsexy part of the market where I remember in the heyday of the late 80s, like the movie Wall Street came out, and that was when I was just getting out of high school and going into college and stuff, of course. And that actually, when 1988 was the first year I got sort of my first real job in the industry and stuff. And that at that point, of course, Wall Street was super sexy and all that kind of stuff. I also remember too, going through the whole war years following the dot-com boom, where Wall Street was very unsexy and not really very popular. And I was a retail broker through those years and literally watched my retail brokerage business basically dry right up. I had to, go and do video conferencing for Transport Canada, their executive committee, and listen to them worry about Osama bin Laden swimming up Vancouver Harbor in a scuba gear and planting bombs on cruise ships. And nobody could ever figure out, does he have to take his turban off when he goes in the water to put on scuba gear, or does he keep his turban on? And I will say, I mean, this is totally off topic. But it does kind of piss me off because Canada is a land of rules of laws. And if I go riding my bicycle down the street here in Vancouver, and I've actually had it happen where I didn't have a helmet on, get pulled over by a cop. My 9 times out of 10, they just give you a warning. But nonetheless, you're breaking the law. A lot of people that are coming to our country these days, they don't seem to give a shit about those laws anymore. And I don't see anybody enforcing them anymore. So I don't think that's healthy for a society to have double standards like that. I think it's actually pretty dangerous. But anyway, it's here nor there. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is I might actually find, and especially kind of gotta say, Josh, so proud of Josh. And really, the whole damn TRI team. Chris does such a great job with these video productions. Josh actually has done just a yeoman's job with these blog posts. Some just absolutely beautiful work. And actually, we're working on another blog post, an update. That in fact, in the newsletter here today, I even included this study because I think you can look at Bitcoin and the tech space and really the whole market as almost kind of like seasonal. Think of like winter, spring, summer, and fall, and all that kind of stuff. And so that's actually what I kind of did here recently with the Bitcoin chart. That's why I wanted to include this as sort of our market of note, market topic of the week, that kind of idea. I put this out and actually got quite a bit of traction on this particular tweet. I mean, just I know it was over 10,000 views, if I'm not mistaken. It was just stunning how much people really enjoyed this image. I don't know whether I can zoom in anymore. Can I? Let's see. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, cool. So we can work off of just this image. And it looks kind of blurry, doesn't it? That's too bad. This is basically the halvening cycle every 4 years. And I would say somebody who's brand new to our community, to even trading and stuff, you probably can't see this image. It's just too big. Keep in mind, I've been basically kind of, I was prop trading through the run up here, and then I sort of kind of told the top step people, I've had enough of working with you guys. I'm going to go over and play in crypto. And good old Johnny Hoagland used to always call Bitcoin beach balls. What are you doing to those damn beach balls, Beamish? So I got involved in earnest in crypto back here. Actually, I was even telling somebody the other day, I officially bought my Bitcoins at $460. Not many, but nonetheless, got some, put some money in here. Never touched it since. And, been literally watching this space 24/7 for basically the past decade. So I do think that we can speak to this kind of study with a position of authority, because I've literally been here every single day. And I can't even believe I've actually been teaching this education program for a decade now. It's shocking, really. It's quite remarkable how time just slips on by. I always say time flies when you're having fun, I suppose. Um, Past few years have been a real challenge for everybody. It has not been a lot of fun. I would say that the fun exited our society right in here, of course, because this is when that stupid sickness nonsense was all manufactured. One of the six celestial events, I suppose. And everything's just been turned upside down. So sad. And they even said, we're transitioning, I think, from Pisces into Aquarius, and by the time we actually make that full transition, the society that we're going to be in on the other side of it, we're going to look back at this old society and go, can you remember when we used to watch NFL football? I wouldn't be surprised if that disappears over the coming years. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. I heard the NCAA actually had a really big settlement. So there's going to be some big changes with NCAA sports coming up here. That whole college football model might just collapse. It'll be interesting to see. Anyway, so with that said, interestingly enough, I think, and I made reference to Josh and the blogs that he's been working on. And actually, we were even reviewing the blog. I think it's super important that everybody keep in mind the relative cycle that we're in. Because the problem here is that I know everybody's looking for man, all that kind of talk. But unfortunately, I'm feeling as though this is going to be a muted cycle. Anyway, well, fingers crossed. Where the hell is Mr. Benner's cycle on here? I mean, he's got so much information. It's insane how robust this is. He's taken all of these cycles and broken them down. It's an absolutely invaluable blog, people. You can learn so much from this, and it's all free. It's incredible, the work that we've put together here for you. Now, do we have Mr. Benner in here? I don't know whether Mr. Benner's in this particular study or not. There's so much information. Where is Mr. Benner? Because technically, Mr. Benner could fall into this same category, but gee whiz, it's so robust, you don't even know where to look. Where is Mr. Benner? Darn. Hey, there's Graham, the Wookiee. Darn. Actually, you can see how long we've been working away on this. Where am I going to find Mr. Benner? Mr. Benner, Mr. Oh, there's Benner. All right, so hopefully we see this. All right, as we sort of pointed out, especially with Mr. Benner, I think 2023 was supposed to be a pivot year. Look at that. You can get a Benner Cycle mouse pad in the TRI swag shop. Actually, I've even got one. Oh, it's in the living room. Yeah, that's not the best image. Here's a nice, sexy image that we can show these good people. Actually, what's so funny is we can actually even just go Benner Cycle and Google it. That'll be the easiest way. And I love that. Rational Investor comes up first link. Oh my goodness. Then that's all Josh. He's so awesome. There's the image I wanted to show you. So anyway, here's the website. Uh, all part of the TRI research team. I mean, these guys do just incredible work. Okay. So the point I wanted to make was here's 2023. And notice 2026 is not one of these big honking, oh my God, we're going to go to the moon kind of conversations. I have a feeling this is going to be a bit muted. Having said that, the irony of it all is that, 2x, 3x on Bitcoin, geez, that'll take us up into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I do think that we're in one of these minor waves, and you can kind of tell because here we are, summer of 2024, I guess late spring, early summer. I think that we are heading into a bull cycle, but I have to say the public participation is very muted. And somebody was sharing this on the site this morning. And I have to say, I don't know this gentleman in particular, but it wouldn't be actually the team's even going to try and consider doing sort of reciprocal things where maybe I go on like that Wall Street Silver. I don't know whether you guys, any of you people watch that, but that was a pretty good interview. And then conversely, we'll have some people come on TRI and, see if we can get the social media contacts going. But somebody in the lounge, and I love this lounge. I mean, we have such a robust community every single day, tons and tons of great content being posted. Orange toupees coming back here. Oh boy, get ready. And what's so funny is 4 years ago, for whatever it's worth, but I even predicted, don't be surprised if 4 years from now, this son of a bitch is right back in our faces. And here he is. I don't know how this is all gonna play out, but anyway, somebody posted a really cool link, and then just give me a second here, see if I can find it. Having fun banging out shit coins. It's a bad sign when the number one performing name in shitcoin land is Let's Fucking Go Coin, and that's the name of it. I'm not even swearing. That's the actual name, right? LFGO. This thing's the number one performing name on my little watch list. Maybe it's backed off here. Let's see if it's still performing. There you go, number one. That can't be a good sign. Actually, this would be a great opportunity to interact with the audience, all 30 of you. But if anything, even post in the comments. See if you know the answer to this. The what always rises last. It's such a great analogy of trading and the markets, and it's always true. Always, always. Well, we used to always say never, though. So you should never say always, but it just seems to be the case. Especially, I was telling you, I had to go get a job fucking with Transport Canada after the market fell apart with the .com nonsense. But man, and that went on month after month after month. I mean, it was just insane. And then, of course, 2017, 2018, all those crazy ass crap coins, silly portfolios going from $500 up to $500,000 and stuff. But so that's what happens at the end of these huge cycles is, you just, the poop always rises last. And, if anything, every single one of you should learn from this. And if you want to get stupid rich, I mean, does it, let's do a poll here. Does anybody want to get stupid rich here? Does anybody? Glass Insight says it starts with an S. Does there's 32 people here. None of you are interacting with me or on YouTube. What the hell? Is this not working? Mama says, "Hi, champion." Hi, Mama. Nice to see you. I don't know whether I'm a champion or not. I'm a champion of the working schlubs. Try and catch a break in this life. That's what I'm a champion of. But unfortunately, it means my as the cleanest of the prophets, my crown, my champion's crown is made of thorns. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. So at least a couple of you want to get stupid rich. That's good. You have to really respect these cycle images. You really do. Yeah. Like this cycle image is so powerful. So you should be able to, all of you, tell me when is the next cycle pivot where you can get stupid rich. I mean, just idiot rich, $500 into $1,000,000. Well, that means if you take $5,000, that would be like $10 million. If you take 50 grand, that's $100 million. I mean, who knows what numbers you're going to need to go and buy a loaf of bread in this stupid world. So you might need $100 million just to go and buy a house. But the point is you should all look at this image and you should be able to tell me exactly when the next stupid rich event window is. We played our funny little crypto game. 1718 was the stupid rich window here. Of course, this was the dot-com boom, 2000. And of course, this was the last fear cycle peak, 1980-81, when everybody got rich, of course, buying gold and stuff. So I might make the argument that we're in sort of one of these in-between kind of event windows here. What's really bothersome about this particular cycle is, and if we think about it demographically, it does make sense. The baby boomers are technically still alive. They will vote, and they always say that senior citizens vote in record numbers. They are in the stage of their lives where they need things like Social Security, old age pensions, uh, OAS, they call it in my country, old age security. Down in the States, they have various different names for all these pension plans and stuff. Medicare, Medicaid, all those kind of things. These are democratically elected politicians. So you tell me, are the politicians likely to backtrack on all of these promises that they've made to the baby boomers? I don't think so. So as a result, the stupidity of the world that we live in, this hyperinflation, instead of resetting the system and saving the integrity of the currency and cutting all these guaranteed payments that really none of us can afford to make, they are going to hyperinflate the society. They're going to keep issuing more and more debt, then monetize the debt, which means that the value of the currency unit is going to collapse. And they are going to hyperinflate their way out of this problem. And as long as they keep those payments going to the Social Security benefactors, then it's just business as usual. There's no way the baby boomers are going to not, they're going to unelect them. Ironically enough, probably on both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans. And I would imagine here in China, ironically enough, people have sort of labeled the current leader as a communist left wing insane idiot, or maybe that's what Brian thinks. But ironically enough, the other guy that's sitting on the other side of the aisle, if and when he gets elected to power, do you think he's actually going to go and change any of these guaranteed benefit plans for any of these baby boomers? Do you think he's going to jeopardize all these baby boomers who own real estate? And if he actually comes in and says, all right, enough of it is enough, like Herbert Hoover, if you speculate in the market, if you play on borrowed money and the market works against you, we're not going to bail you out. It's your own fucking fault for being a stupid idiot with your pocketbook. No, that's not going to happen. Even the right wing politicians are going to balk to political pressure. And, Trump, when he was in power, he, um, uh, endorsed $1 trillion deficits. In fact, some people have even said that if Trump actually gets elected, we might find that the inflation situation goes from a really bad case of inflation where we're all dying 1,000 deaths to hyperinflation, Weimar Germany, wheelbarrows of money to actually buy a loaf of bread, utter and complete economic collapse. And it does make sense because Mr. Trump's actually thinking about firing Jerry the first day that he gets elected. And if you have no leadership whatsoever out of the central bank, and Donnie can basically say, look, we need another $1 trillion for this, we need another $1 trillion for that, then the whole fucking thing gets completely out of control, and boom, you got yourself a Weimar Germany. So we're kind of in a no-win situation here, folks. It's not pretty. I'll tell you that much, bike crackers. What's fascinating is and I do think that they are doing it to a certain degree in the United States, but in my country, the higher ups sort of solution is, I know, let's just open up the floodgates and let anybody who wants to come to Canada. You got the green light. Yeah, you want a passport? Boom, Merry Christmas. Here's a passport. You're now a Canadian citizen. And of course, that means that with that citizenship comes a lifetime burden of debt and absolutely insane taxation, which a lot of these people coming to this country have no idea what they're getting involved in. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, some people are actually kind of like, you know what? I don't want to be here. I actually want to go back home. The government is threatening to actually hit them with like a $25,000 fine. You can't write better fiction than reality. I mean, this is a train wreck moving 100 miles an hour, and there just doesn't seem to be any way to stop this. And, you have to feel badly. Well, not feel badly, but empathize and understand what the people in Weimar Germany were going through. And then what's scary is what comes out the other side. And they've always said, folks, remember this, the omen is Trump is the last US president. Those might be interesting words to note. Go Google that omen. That's an interesting omen. Anyway, it's gonna be crazy ass fucking few years ahead of us, that's for sure. One thing that leads me to believe, though, that we are in one of these kind of troughing events, we're within a bull cycle. So that's encouraging, right? 23, 26. We should actually be able to make some pretty good money. And especially if you can listen to guys like Sjord, who've got a head on their shoulders. And this guy is smarter than a whip when it comes to actually analysis of the crypto space. I mean, he has this long render at like 50 cents, and you know where that is. And I would not be surprised. Nvidia, in our little newsletter, we pointed out that Nvidia came out with another pretty robust earnings report. I'm getting the feeling like this semiconductor bull market's a little bit long in the tooth, and also too, I don't really like the way the breadth is looking here in the short term. So I don't know whether there needs to be some short-term machinations back and forth. I'm kind of feeling like maybe especially with things like Ethereum, maybe like a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of scenario. We'll see what happens. Usually into the end of May, end of June, that sort of month window. Keep in mind, countries like Australia, for instance, they actually have their tax loss selling season here in June. So there is a lot of selling pressure that comes into the market. Then, of course, if you're a commodity player, there's the whole sort of seasonal commodity trade there, which also is, kind of heavy downside pressure. Whether it be from the demand perspective, things like metals and raw materials for construction industry. Usually all that's purchased. And then, by the time we get into May, June, that's actually when they take delivery. So there aren't any new purchases on that grand scale. But also too, things like the summer driving season. Usually the way the industry works is, you build up sort of anticipated demand for the summer driving season. So all the wholesalers and stuff, they want to get all the product and stuff ready for the consumer when they hit the road. So they've already bought all their unleaded gasoline. They've bought everything, all the supplies and stuff. And now they're just like, all right, consumers, we got the supplies. You want to come and buy it off us at retail prices? Here we are. So not a heck of a lot of new sort of industry demand right now. They've already got everything that they need. So, actually, it was interesting. I listened to Larry Williams here just this past week. And like a typical sort of old timer senior citizens kind of guy, Larry goes, okay, so I buy these cryptocurrencies so that I can sell them for more dollars down the road. That's what I'm supposed to do here. Is that why I own these things? He's kind of like, I still don't quite understand what I'm supposed to do with this stuff that I bought. Very typical old guy, right? And I'm sort of like halfway between Larry's world. He was sort of like my mentor when I was probably all of your guys' age. And I'm sort of like half, in his camp and his world, get your price charts in the mail, that kind of thing. And then half in the sort of Sjord's world. And I think the way the narrative is going to play out forward is, and I always forget the damn saying. Chris knows it off the top of his head. But the actual use case of these cryptos, what do they call it? Real world assets, something like that. There you go. So, and I think that's sort of how Mr. Fink is trying to label all this, which is scary because what it really means is that and man, I've been saying this for the past 10 years, so it's basically going to come true. Is by the end of all this, every single one of us will be on the blockchain. We will have an immutable, uneditable, although that might be interesting if it's on the Solana network kind of idea, but record of our entire lives, and there's nothing you can do about it. I suppose to a certain degree, if you live in our Western societies with your social security number, all that kind of stuff, you already technically live that world. Which means, of course, and this actually should be a boon, and it's probably one of the reasons why the Fedsters like this so much. There's a lot of economic activity that happens in our society that's completely under the table. And of course, if they can blockchain all of us and they can basically make everything that we do trackable, ironically enough, using Bitcoin to do under the table transactions is not a good idea because there will be a record of your transaction. And if somebody really wants to audit and figure out exactly what you've done, there should technically be a record. And it is interesting to see, I hear Sjord come on repeatedly and talk about how who are the regulators going after right now and really shitting on? Guys who build these mixers, right? And guys who build these platforms where you can hide your identity of your crypto ownership. And Sjord was telling us a story just recently about how a guy who built a mixer even just got arrested now, like years after the fact. So they're still going after those kind of people, and that makes sense, right? Because if they want to digitize everything, and this is why I think that the governments and the banksters like this so much, is if they can actually put a ledger onto the entire economy, I would actually make the argument that government revenues will actually go up dramatically. Like huge increases, maybe 20-30% increase in government revenues. So I can understand the longer term sales picture for crypto. Unfortunately, I actually think that this paints a very dystopian type society, and with a lot more controls on the human species, which really sucks. But I could very easily see that, and I think that's Mr. Fink's going to advocate towards that kind of world. So I do like the idea that the market is going to be moving higher here. I just wonder whether this cycle itself, a lot of, there was, and I never remember the person's name, but anyway, I have heard some people say that, they could see Bitcoin at 500,000, but they could see Bitcoin at 500,000 into the 35 peak, not necessarily this 26 peak. I think if you're really smart and you're really savvy and you understand this space, there will always be bull markets. For instance, Fjord was first interested in Nvidia at $25 a share. Damn thing just cost $1,000 a share. I mean, it just goes to show how damn smart this guy is. And I would suggest all of you, you all become Fjord disciples. He's got a nice list, even has a nice portfolio that we publish on the site. His crypto FA portfolio. He doesn't. I have said, and we've had long conversations about this. He really doesn't want to put dollar sizes on his investment sizes because that often can paint a target on your head. And of course, he's deathly worried about people coming and basically holding him to ransom and threatening to hurt his family and stuff because of the amount of money that he works with. So I do understand that. If anything, what we're almost kind of thinking is maybe we just say like, what was your starting balance and where are you now? So maybe we can put like a percentage. But we have Siord come on the call every Tuesday. Our daily brief after party, great conversation. He's totally open for you to poll and to pick his brain. And he's one of the nicest people that you'll ever meet in your life. I will say, I'm unfortunately not a very agreeable person a lot of the time, which I know might sound absolutely shocking. I fully acknowledge I am a very flawed human, very, very flawed human. I will say that I do believe that JoJo and Spirit, they brought Julian, who has a lot of patience and puts up with a lot of my shit, and Sjord into the equation here to make damn sure this rational investor thing really flies, and we actually do make a positive difference in this world. Julian keeps the damn ship on course. Actually we have a fairly large staff now, so he's managing them well. And the books and all that. And as I said, if we want an actual like expert in the crypto space, the good Lord handed us. I've been working in this space now for 10 years, a decade, and I have yet to meet somebody who could seriously challenge Fjord in the smarts department. And also, too, of course, he's a whiz at coding. Oh, what an added bonus. And we're trying so desperately, and we're getting closer. Never been closer, as we've said repeatedly, at putting my 1980s website into practice. And interestingly enough, in this kind of image, if the engine is operating correctly, which I do believe it is, this isn't exactly a bullish scenario here. We should probably be a little bit careful. My apologies for the rants. Hey, these are positive rants, right? Can I not positively rant about how much I'm in? I think I even said this before. I really wanted his baby, but he won't let me go to bed with him. All right. Somebody's like, yeah, but there's trades and things are moving, and quit with your rhetoric and let's talk markets and stuff. All right. Anyway, as you saw from this image, I'm not actually overly impressed with the breadth of the market right now. And ironically enough, just as sort of demonstration purposes for the site, I do like to do these trades fairly regularly. We had the happy little shorts from a week or two ago. And actually, this is the image that I was trying to get to, but of course, I got all crazy ranty there and off on a tangent. There's something not right about this market right now. We have a major disconnect where the market is moving higher, and yet all of you, this is why I said, people are actually watching this video. Guys like Big House and the Matador and DMAC and Adam, and I suppose to a lesser degree, Bursier Card, Bursito Card. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? I'm not quite sure who you are. I've seen you, of course, on the channel, so welcome, welcome. But there's something disconnected about this, and this actually is a bit dangerous. I don't like what I'm seeing here. This is wrong. And of course, the whole damn space is being dominated by these silly ETFs and Mr. Fink. So I don't even know whether this is even a real market. Like a lot of this, and I think this is the Bitcoin chart. I could be mistaken. I'm not even quite sure exactly what this is. This was just says price. I think this is from Benjamin Cohen's studies. But the amount of actual participation by the public there's something not right about this. Now, as you can see, I think that we're in this kind of scenario going back to 15, 16. So it'd actually be interesting to see what the social media kind of chatter and stuff is through here. But notice when this thing actually ended up Wing out, that's when price actually started moving up in earnest. I don't know whether we've actually had that Wing out here in social sentiment and social participation. And you notice that we're actually breaking down to new lows. So there's something not right about this market state here. And could we use a month or so of just maybe cleaning this picture up here? Yeah, it would actually make a lot of sense. I mean, what kind of scares me, I remember this kind of environment in here. I went over to Europe, and a lot of people were just sort of convinced that, and I think this was like $600 a coin, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a little, no, maybe 6,000. Actually, I think maybe 6,000. And then there was one more dump, and I'm worried that we have like a summer that looks like this. And then we have one more dump into sort of that presidential election event. I don't know if that's it or not. But I do remember through this window when I was over in Europe, everybody just assumed, yeah, Bitcoin's based at 6,000. Yep, that's just the way that it is, right? And then all of a sudden, the market basically fell in half. And you see that the sentiment here didn't really W out and turn back higher in earnest until we were well over here. So something's not right about this. I don't like the look of this image at all. Something's just not right. So this is the kind of thing that kind of bothers me. And also too, middle to the end of May, this is not when we should be getting super bullish. So I don't know. As I said, I think a lot of this has to do with the sort of manipulation of the market around these exchange traded funds. And then, of course, with Bitcoin, of course, we had the halving event, which is a big fundamental catalyst. And now, of course, we have the Ethereum with all the ETF rattle. I'd also say, too, be careful through these kind of windows, this being the holiday weekend. Usually there's a lot of effery by the banksters, 1% stuff through these holiday windows. I don't know whether you get a really clear image of the market here through this. It might get a little wonky here, especially after I leave for Liam and the sort of the next 24 hours. We could see some pretty crazy ass price action here. So just be forewarned. This isn't really a normal market state right now. Having said that, as I said, I like the idea that we are heading into a seasonally friendly window. I mean, the easiest way to solve all of this is just, can you please take the price to new highs? Once we're sort of comfortably through this traffic range and you see us printing above this 74,000 with W's in both price and in momentum indicators, then all right, we're ready for the next leg. Away we go. I don't know whether we're actually at that stage right now. I think we're still at sort of like we're consolidating stage. So, there's that bigger picture. But if we sort of zoom in on the smaller picture, like this is the weekly price chart. So I've shown you this picture several times where we have basically two dominating trend lines. On my birthday, of course, we capitulated. I think it was like a day or two before my birthday. And we've basically been rallying since then, which is very cliche. We've done some structural damage here. Now, this is on an intra-week basis. If we change this to a line chart, we're still okay, right? We don't really have nasty M's working here, which I suppose is a good sign. This is still just intra-week price action. You can see here clearly, if we cannot get up above here and close above these highs, and we actually like maybe paint like a fractal, maybe a nice inside bar, this coming week we do absolutely nothing. And then we actually start to slip a little bit following the whole ETF news and all that kind of stuff for Ethereum, then be careful. I don't think that this paints a big fat M. My sort of prognostications was that we were just going to replicate 2015-16 bottom, which looks something along the lines of this. So where are we here? There we are. Which is fascinating because remember my conversation about Mr. Trump and the potential for him to fire the Fed and just let the fucking money printing just go crazy, which I don't think he would have a problem with. Because of course prices would just skyrocket, and it's if you are asset rich, then it's no big deal. Bitcoin goes to $1 million, right? That kind of thing. But if that's the case, then this is the market that we have in front of us. Oh boy, look out. But in the short term, I think that we're still sort of going through this phase right now. So how long does this take to play out? There was the pre-halvening peak, and this thing didn't really close at new highs until way over here. So that is June. And we officially close at new highs into November, December. So that's literally like 6 months. And I have a feeling that that's basically our path. Now, what concerns me is, they say history, of course, never repeats itself. I get the impression that we'll probably do something along those lines. Maybe go flirt with those old highs, then back down. But in essence, we're still stuck in this sort of range. Obviously, we don't look exactly like this. I think that the current downtrend channel, of course, is a lot shallower. And what we really want to see is we want to see like W action. I suppose if we drill down to the daily chart, there's probably some nice W's down in here on the other side of this trend line. But the problem now, of course, is that the trend line that we're working with at present is very flat. It's not nearly as steep. So there is our trend line. Boom, 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 boom. And really, for us to get like uber bullish, at least me, probably, I don't know if any of you matter. That's not the right way to say it. Whether you even have an opinion, but for a guy like me, for me to get like uber bullish, I need to see a W on the other side of this trend line. It's just that simple. So I don't necessarily think we're actually really doing a hell of a lot here. We're still in this correction phase, which, let's see. You guys are all like, well, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear moon, man. We're going straight up. Probably ironically enough, I don't even think that the story is here anymore. I think Bitcoin now is going to sort of become like backseat. It's just going to do its thing, consolidate over the next few months, get ready for, some sort of crazy ass orgy. And I actually might make the argument, especially if you're looking at things like the daily price chart, which I didn't have that. That was the weekly chart. There, I think I have it over here. How do I change this? My brain's gonna explode. Too many charts. Here. Um, this is the daily chart, and I put this chart out the other day. And I couldn't believe how cliche this was. I mean, it just drove me crazy how cliche this was. So, FOMC event, sell the rumor, buy the news. So, FOMC event, then the release of the actual conversation that they had at the Fed meeting. Jerry stands up there on the podium and says, "Oh, yeah, we think everything's awesome and you're all going to get rich. Yeah, woohoo, America, USA, USA." Whatever. Uh, then we actually get the release of the Fed minutes, and it turns out that they go, "Oh, actually, everything sucks. Inflation's still a problem. Hey, you know what? I want to raise interest rates, not lower interest rates." And the market goes, "Ah, crap. Did they just do it again?" FOMC minutes. Jerry stands on the stage. Everybody goes, "Oh, we love you, Jerry. You're so handsome. You're so beautiful. We love you. We love you. Everything's going to be awesome. You're all going to get rich. I see no stag and I see no inflation." Then we get the actual release of the Fed minutes. And there's actually talk of some of the Fed governors saying, "I openly advocate that we raise interest rates." What? And the whole fucking market rolls over. This is so cliche. It's ridiculous. Somebody remind me, Chris, maybe you could just put a note in here and I'll remind Brian the next FOMC minute meeting. We put the stopwatch on and see if we get a dead cat bounce straight up. Doesn't matter whether it's stocks or whether it's this particular risk asset proxy. And then once the FOMC minutes come out, we look for the reversal of the trade. Wouldn't surprise me. So off of this, and this was interesting because we have, for some reason right now, Tom DeMark, super popular on the site. And, indicators come and go with their preferences. I tell everybody, and if you're watching this and you want something, hey, this guy just said something that I probably should write down in my journal. Never take a trade off of just one reason. Don't do it. It's just dumb. You're asking for trouble. Ideally, we want to have 3 unrelated reasons to justify taking a trade. And really, I might argue that those 3 unrelated reasons should go along the lines of 1, be some sort of location tool. And you should always start with location. Location is always the most important criteria, in my opinion. Location, location, location. 3 words in real estate. Then number 2, indicator confirmation. If you want to use like a Tom DeMark as an indicator confirmation, all Tom DeMark is asking is, can we have a situation where day after day after day after day, the market keeps printing higher highs relative to 4 days prior? That's all the Tom DeMark indicator is. It's not rocket science. It's remarkable how the indicators were taken down off of TradingView because I think Tom DeMark said, "Hey, this is, if you're going to use my name, you got to pay me a royalty," kind of thing, which doesn't surprise me. Maybe I should change the Willie to the Beamish. And that way, if any of you use it in the future, I can demand a royalty payment. I don't know. Anyway, the point being that you can see we have 8s and 9s. Why? Because this market just kept moving higher and higher and higher. And if you just measured relative to the previous 4 days, it just kept making a higher high, higher high, higher high. And, Mr. DeMark himself has said that, if you get to 8s and 9s, it's probably a good chance you'll look for a reversal. But as you can see, this is a great example. If you went and shorted the shit out of this mark as sort of your indicator confirmation, fine. So in this particular case, we are using Tom DeMark. You can see it on here. I have a number of location tools, reload zones. This is chaos theory, Foggenbaum constants, trend line resistance. We also have a midpoint trend channel that was working really nicely here. Bullish AB equals CD objectives. I mean, just a ton of reasons to look for reversal in this area. I have no idea whether this top is going to hold. I don't. And if anything, this is where, if you really fancy yourself a trader, you have to let go of your opinions. Your opinions are meaningless, they're useless. What you have to just sort of buy into, if you really want to be one of these trader guys, is you are a statistician by trade. That's what you do. So the reason why I have confidence in the idea of hunting a short here is not so much that my opinion is that Bitcoin's crap and it sucks. It's that I know statistically when the market does rally up against previous areas where somebody came along and said, get your ass out down here, get your ass down here. Then, and especially if I start seeing signs of exhaustion, harmonic levels, Tom DeMarks, right? This is a what they call a fractal here, this 3-bar pattern. When I start to stack up all of these reasons, what do markets do when they tag trend lines? You all know that we're not allowed to take a long signal here on this event. We have to wait for a W to come in on the other side of this downtrend line. You heard me barking about that earlier. So to see the market a bit weak here, actually statistically is appropriate. I have no idea. This is not Brian's opinion of what's going to happen. This is just statistics. Having said that, Mr. Fink could come out Tuesday morning and say, I want to buy up all of the Bitcoins in the world. I'm taking this entire network private and fuck you all. I don't care. I'm buying your coins at market. Vroom, up goes the price. Anything can happen in this world. Anything. It's just really a question of statistically, what's the odds here? I thought this was an interesting one in Ethereum. It's the same conversation. This one's an interesting one, though, because you can see, again, statistically, and this is off a very low time frame. This is only 30 minutes. I was interested in, buy the rumor. The SEC announces the event, sell the news. You can see I stepped in. Then the market started to firm up. Why? Because we're heading into this crazy holiday weekend where all the grown-ups are basically out on vacation, right? Memorial Day weekend. Maybe up at the cottage or, the cabin or whatever, enjoying fireworks, enjoying family. And the banksters, of course, they can run roughshod here. They can screw with the public. They can do anything they want in the market. And especially these markets, these are unregulated markets. They can do doubly whatever the hell they want in here. And that's exactly what I think they're doing. This is an interesting one because it's like a diamond pattern right here. And then if you actually look at this, and what a fabulous anecdote of trade location. You can see all the chaos theory levels all up in here. You can see good old Brian's reload zone. Actually, this is a reload zone within a reload zone because you have this range here, which paints this lower reload zone. You have this bigger range here, which paints this upper reload zone. And when they overlap, I love that for trade location. And interesting how the market ran right up into there and we've literally stopped. Could this get blown out here through this weekend? Yeah, I would actually say because of the holiday weekend, this is pretty vulnerable. What's interesting about this image, though, is that this is contained within an interesting trade location. So now this is actually the daily price chart. Interesting chart setup. Again, fascinating. Feigenbaum, chaos theory, and of course, good old Brian's reload zones and Brian's favorite fibs and lines in the sand. And interesting how we banged into trendline resistance, which stopped the bull run, right? And then if you do your little reload zones off of this insane Darth Maul candle, right? There's your reload zone that you saw off that 30-minute chart. So fascinating trade location, absolutely fascinating. We'll see what happens here through the weekend. If this was tomorrow night, I would have much, much more confidence that this top is probably in and we're probably going to crank back down. But because tomorrow is a holiday, and today's Sunday, I could actually see them fuck around with this and maybe run the stops up top here, just as we're in this funny low liquidity environment. So, be cognizant of that. I'd also say too, don't marry this, because this could very easily, if you are a trader, I don't know whether there's really that many people who watch this video who really are. But I think you could make the argument that this could potentially be a midpoint consolidation. So, this is where, as I said, me as a technician, I'm not allowed to have an opinion. All I do is trade setups, and I trade opinion, or trade setups, trade levels, three unrelated reasons, reload zones, all that kind of fun talk. If this does resolve to the bull side, I think they're going to take this market up here to about 45, maybe even up into the 47.50 area. There's a fog and bomb sitting up there waiting for us. And this might be just nothing more than a midpoint consolidation. So I wouldn't fall in love with the idea of shorting this. At the same time, too, I never really did get a W on the other side of this trend line break. So I don't really have a buy signal here. What I have is a market shot its way up into resistance and now seems to be floundering a bit. So is it in the trader's best interest to be thinking about trading range? And you could make the argument that statistically markets range 70 to 80% of the time, which means that 70 to 80% of the time, we have a very realistic possibility of just trading right back down to this trend line, right? And basically doing the whole process that you see here. I mean, how many people actually predicted that this rally was going to happen? And then, of course, everybody goes, I predicted it. I knew that was going to happen. Yeah, sure. Could we very easily have this roll back over and dump into reload long zones? Sure, why not? Statistically, like I said, 70 to 80% of the time, these things just sit in trading ranges. So I'll leave this on the screen. We'll review this in the coming sessions, and let's see what happened here. My hunch is that they've just got it in a trading range. And that sort of speaks to my 2-to-1 risk reward kind of idea. If this trade does actually work, shorting against these highs, then I would be like at 2-to-1, sell half of the position, move your stop to scratch. In fact, I would even say move your stop to scratch on 50% of the anticipated move. And that way you don't have like a winning trade turn into a losing trade, which is incredibly debilitating. So, at that point, move your stop to scratch. And if this thing ratchets back up, great, fine. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. I could very easily see, as we're eating this wick up top here, we roll over and we come back down and eat this tail in here, yada, 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 whatever. And then, of course, if this thing does cascade its way lower, you've moved your stop to scratch now. And if this thing pukes out, great. Take partial profits on the position. You still have your stop at scratch on the remainder. And then maybe this turns into a happy little short where the damn thing just keeps working and working and working. It could happen. So point here is that this is a statistician's type of trade setup. Not really opinion. I have no idea what's going to happen. Now you can see the trade's actually underwater by $6. It could go either way. Anyway, so that's sort of what I'm seeing in the market here. It does make sense to me that the traders might actually take short shots up top here. Having said that, because I just said that, you might even find some guys even try to run the market up top here just to run me out. Well, that could very easily happen. Remember, these are unregulated markets, very dangerous. If we look at the broader market, I really don't have a hell of a lot to get too bullish about here. So this is your total crypto market. And what I see here is basically an oscillation around the mean. And interesting, there's your downtrend line. This is basically the same conversation as Bitcoin. Ran up top, paints eights and nines, Tom DeMark. You could argue, hey, there's a nice little fractal to short right off of this trend line, and this thing's just working away. It's not really anything like overtly bullish to be excited about here. And the thing that bothers me about this market is this is a red box. We want to be bullish in green boxes, not red boxes. So if anything, and maybe this is something that you're just going to have to learn as a longtime market participant, right? Maybe you're brand new at this and you just, yeah, you don't have the market experience. But I can tell you so many times, the middle of June, crypto kids are just dying 1,000 deaths. It's like we go into this funny little vacuum, and it usually doesn't resolve itself until like the July 4th holiday weekend. Then we're sort of officially all into the summer silly season. All the crypto kids are fully set up in their basements and they're ready to rock and roll, or mom's basement, I should say. And we start the process all over again. Starting the process from this position here, I don't know. And this time, it just feels all wrong. And then, to circle back to what Mr. Cowan was posting, this is not, that's not an image where you go, are you kidding? Everybody's all bullish. We're all going to get rich. Wait a minute. Something's not right about this. What the hell? I mean, where's everybody? Who would be buyers? You can see that as the market climbs a wall of worry, right? More and more market participants come in and come in and come in. And then, when the chart looks like this, it's made higher highs and higher lows, and it just keeps making higher highs and higher highs. And then at this point, they come out and say, oh, this time it's different, blah, 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 blah. And of course, they're walking into a trap. So what the fucking fuck is going on here? Something just doesn't make sense about this. It is a little bothersome, folks. I will say this. I don't know. Maybe this is a bit old because that's January. I mean, maybe this isn't up to date, but something just does not look right about this image here, folks. I'm sorry. There's just something not right about it, and it bothers me. Anyway, it is what it is. If I'm looking at the broader crypto space, I want to see weekly W's on other sides of trend lines. I am starting to see some of that type of price action. So that's encouraging. As I said, of course, we've got our awesome FA portfolio that Stuart is working like a boss on. Fundamentally beautiful. We even have some of the names. Julian is following social media influencers. So I can see like this name in particular this weekend seems to be enjoying a bit of a bid here. This is where Julian sort of first told us about this social media influencer. And of course, you can see there's a W and away she goes. But again, I have to reiterate, remember, Brian's a cheap ass and he hates spending money. Do I want to come in and buy there, especially with the downtrend line so close to where we are here? Is that where I want to be a buyer? I don't know. That's a tough one for me. It's tough pill to swallow. So, I have seen a few names rallying in this space, but it doesn't feel like I would pull up the screen and go, holy shit, I got to get in there and buy that. That thing's going to the moon. I mean, maybe these things move higher on inertia, and that's fine, but I'm not the type of guy that likes to come in after the fact. I like to come in as these things are bottoming out and sneak my way in. I'm a cheap ass, right? Unfortunately, that's just the character that I am. But you can see, there are some names like this little WAN that's been pretty popular. Are we actually starting to put in some W's? I mean, you can see they knocked this thing right back down. Do you have the smatterings? Actually, I suppose you have to go there to there. This one might be an interesting one. Yeah. I don't like when I see this. So this tells me that, yeah, we're probably going to bang up against, these highs here and consolidate a bit more. Give me a W on the other side of this trend line and then go. I could very easily see a scenario like that. So we're kind of stuck in this range for the time being. Something along those lines. Yeah, so just my hunch is we're probably just going to play around in here for a bit. And then notice there's July. So let's get on the other side of July and then we can start rocking and rolling. So I see the starts of the bottoming process. We're getting a lot of really acceptable trade location now out of a lot of these little names, which is good. So if you are a little old lady kind of idea, okay, you can start nibbling away. We got a few people down there in Sacramento who are all following Adam's lead. I think, Adam, I know Adam for certain. He's been in there and he's constantly adding me in the little old lady room. Hey, Brian, this one's at a bottom. Hey, Brian, this one's at a bottom. Hey, and we got DDBB, same thing. We also have the Matador. We got a whole bunch of people that are all sort of like, their laser beam focus on what's coming in. Okay. So I do like the idea that we are sort of coming down into the bottom end of ranges. Um, uh, I do like the idea that we're getting really close to summer silly season. And of course, summer silly season, fortunes can be made in crypto space. Probably this would be a really good time for you to laser beam. In fact, maybe Chris, can you write this down? I think that this window over the next month, this is the time when you really want to focus if you like doing those airdrops and all this sort of promotional stuff, getting ready for the summer. We should circle back around when we have Sjord on Tuesday to take a look at how his airdrop wallet sort of demonstration stuff is going, eh? I don't know whether you could make a note of that. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Because they've clearly knocked the stuffing out of a lot of this market. Like I said, the sentiment in this space, look how quickly the sentiment went from we're all going to get rich to, we're dying 1,000 deaths. What the hell happened there? Kaboom. As I said, I don't, this is a kind of this is somebody else's work. And if anything, Chris, remember we said we have a list of social media influencers that we should reach out to and try and hook up with. And Josh, if you're watching this later on, this is exactly, Mr. Cowan, we should see if we could somehow get him on our show and see if we can somehow get the Beamish on his show kind of idea. But I wouldn't mind him just coming on the TRI broadcast and just explaining this image to our audience. Because I think there is good information here. But in a weird sort of way, I want to buy weakness. I want to buy, I don't like the look of this price action. I would like to see some serious weakness, really get these kids freaking out. I remember when this happened, the entire space was completely just gobsmacked. They didn't know what the hell to make out of this. And then, of course, all of a sudden in comes W's and we don't look back. Of course, this was the sickness environment. And if anything, this is exactly what I want to see is I want to see this indicator here actually painting higher lows and higher highs and then give me a big dump here, right? Which is completely unrelated to crypto, completely unrelated to the industry. And of course, that set the base for that. So when I see this, I'm like, there's something missing here. Call me crazy. Many people do. So okay, so we talked a little bit about some fun games we're having in the Ethereum space. This is like a lower time frame setup. We'll see what happens there. I do technically actually like the fact that this Bitcoin chart has fractaled out. You can see I have a couple orders working here. One that is off the fractal level, and then the other is off at 2.618. And of course, good old Brian's reload zone, favorite fib, line in the sand, whatever we shall call it. Boom, up top there. I love a short right up there. That's the same logic as shorting Ethereum right here. So the bigger boys actually don't mind the idea of hunting tops, statistics, all that. Buy the rumor, sell the news. What's going to turn me back bullish on Bitcoin? Take out this trend line. W's on other sides of trend lines. Brian's back on the bull side. Rah, rah, rah. Oh, away we go. But a little bit early for that. Probably also the same thing on the stock market. Banged into a couple technical levels. And I suppose, on Bitcoin, this is the same sort of thing. I could very easily see them bring Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff up to new highs and then do a little bit more shenanigans. It is interesting to see a lot of people turn like insanely bearish here. So if anything, that's half the reason why we probably went to new highs. I would simply say, with regard to something like the stock market, though, it's going to be awfully tough for the market to break in earnest, because the guy who's in charge down there, he would like to keep his job. The executive branch, of course, basically guides everything about enforcement of society's laws. So, Gensler and his sort of circle jerk orgy against crypto here. It is actually interesting to hear, and this would be an interesting development to see how total plays itself out here. But I am hearing the smatterings that the U.S. House is trying to jam through some pretty friendly crypto regulation. My hunch is, though, that it's going to run into a brick wall in the Senate. And then, of course, Mr. Biden, he doesn't like crypto at all. So it doesn't surprise me if he actually would veto it. Mr. Trump, on the other hand, has basically said, look, if you elect me, I'll be more than happy to endorse self-custody. I'll be happy to endorse free markets. I'll be happy to endorse freedom of anything. He's a guy all about freedom. So maybe what this really means, and kind of like what we were saying there earlier, with regard to that 15-16 cycle, is maybe what we just really need is we just got to be patient and wait 6 months. I mean, what's 6 months? It's not really that big of a deal. And then once we get on the other side of the election, maybe all that pent up demand. I don't know whether you remember, but in 16, when Trump won the election, the whole market just went crazy. We might find a situation like that, like literally November 9th, 2024, the whole market just goes absolutely apeshit to the upside. I could see that happen. We could have like 1 year of just insane crypto rally. I could easily see that. Anyway, strap on your seatbelts and do yourself a favor. Get your butt over to TRI. If you want to learn how to set yourself up to do this, take our education program. I don't think there's anybody else in the industry that holds a candle to our education program. I see tons of trader sort of education programs, and they want to specifically pigeonhole you into being like a futures trader. I don't see very rarely any sort of education program, or conversely, take this education program and learn how to circle Bitcoin on a whiteboard and pay $5,000 to listen to how you can circle jerk all together. Gucci sweaters, all that. In fact, okay, we won't even go there. It's a funny anecdote of Gucci sweaters there. Anyway, point here is our education program is beautiful. I mean, you want to be just a little old lady? I mean, hell, nobody even really teaches risk management, the different types of risk takers that you can actually be in the market. Nobody teaches this stuff. So, if you want to learn how to build and run your small business of trading, TRI's got you. And the price that we charge of this education program is ridiculous. So take advantage of that. If you fancy yourself, hey, I think I got a pretty good idea of how to behave in the marketplace. A lot of people don't know how to behave. Chris, what do you think? I don't know whether you've got your microphone on that the audience can hear you. Did you learn how to behave in the marketplace through your experience here at TRI? Do you behave differently in the market now?
Absolutely. I behave like a professional risk manager.
There you go. Well said. I mean, that's the shit that we teach you people, how to behave in the market. In fact, actually, in one of my level 3ers, current level 3 program, the very first thing that we do out of the gate is, okay, quit pussyfooting and let's start actually acting like professionals, which means that you have to do crazy documents like this. I was sharing this with a student of mine this morning, which is you have to track exactly what your mistakes are costing you. And at the end of the week, how much money did that actually cost you for you keep fucking up? Stop fucking up, because it's costing you real money. And of course, students don't really like when I talk to them like that, but that's what a professional program is going to do. So anyway, So you want to learn how to behave? Get your butt in the school program. Um, if you think fancy yourself, well, I'm a pretty good risk manager. I know how to behave. I know how to manage a portfolio. Then I don't know anybody else in the industry. Number one, you can follow the old man who likes to buy everything. So I've got the little old lady portfolio going. It's worth about 20, 30 G's. So it's a fun little experiment. And we are, and actually, I think we even have it reporting on the website correctly now, which I'm so pleased to see. So way to go, TRI team. Let's see, that is over here. So you want to follow the Beamish and all his fun little old lady purchases. And, like I said, I like to buy everything. So totally kicking butt, just moving along here. My cash balance should be 6,000 and change, but I'm an idiot. And I actually let one of these stupid internet scammers steal $3,000 from me. So, if anything, you also get a great lecture in how to avoid the pitfalls of being a doofus. It is interesting too. We're still trying to make sure that this data is coming in. So I can tell you absolutely, I have more than 16 cents in Loom right now. So we're still, getting this thing polished, but yeah, it's looking good. I'm proud, and I even acknowledge the fact that I went and put a bunch of money in this Ubic, and everybody's like, "Why the fuck does that Beamish guy like this Ubic?" And as you can see, I'm reporting a 100% loss on my investment. I don't know whether these guys are dead or not, but well, it is what it is. And if anything, half the reason why I do the little old lady portfolio is I expect that some of these names are going to die. And if you want to build a portfolio and a business where you can handle names dying, well, it's all about how you manage risk. And so anyway, if you need to learn that, get into the education program. If you fancy yourself, well, I already know risk management. Hell, I've already taken your program, Brian. I just want to know what you're buying. Great. Well, you got that. And then what's really cool is Julian is actually going to have a portfolio that he's interested up and running. So that will be added to the site soon. We also have an old time site alum, Sonny, who has said that he would like to have a demo portfolio up and running on the site as well for the gamify industry. So look forward to that. That's something that's in development coming down the pike. And of course, we've got Sjord's FA list that's got quite a bit of money invested in it. And what we even do every Tuesday, Sjord comes on the call and we try to corner him to talk a little bit about one or two of his names. And he even has nice little video recordings of why he's interested in these particular names. So, I mean, it's an absolutely fabulous resource that we've put together here at TRI. We are, and of course, our research, this all is for free. And this is Josh's great work. I don't think I've seen a better blog on the net for just raw, usable, learnable information. Josh has done an absolutely incredible job here. It's beautiful work that he's done. Okay, there's the sales pitch. So I don't think I'll pitch you guys anymore here today. Let's head on over to the Q&A. We've got about a half an hour left, and let's see if I can help answer some of these people's questions. Then I will head off to Lily, and I hope all of you can wish me best of karmic wishes for the road this afternoon. All right, number one from Ben. He says, "Hi, Brian. I read everywhere that it's taken as an obvious cause and effect that when the Fed cuts interest rates, it stimulates the economy." Yeah, but just remember here, Ben, it's really delayed. Like it takes probably a good 6 months at least to see any effects of interest rate cuts. And then conversely, it takes about a good 6-8 months to see any effects of interest rate increases. So you might see, like on the day that they do cut rates, some sort of knee-jerk reaction by the market, but very rarely is the actual rate cut itself the day that the market and the economy pivots. So keep that in mind. Lower borrowing costs encourage business to invest and consumers to spend, which would inevitably cause the S&P 500 to rise. Yeah, there. It's never as simple as this. Remember, there are two driving forces here when it comes to stocks, especially the S&P 500. There is the cost of money. So that's what this conversation is all about. And keep in mind, there's a whole industry that does nothing more than borrow on the short end. So every 90 days, they're rolling over their borrowings and they lend out to the public on the long end. They expect to have what's called a normal yield curve, which means that interest rates on the short end will be lower than interest rates on the long end. So by definition, they are guaranteed to make money. So who does that? All the brokerage houses, all the banks, all the insurance companies, any real company, all the reinsurance companies, any company that's involved in the financial services industry. They all do this. It is their bread and butter. Because what's supposed to happen is the yield curve is 9 times out of 10. It's, well, I don't know. That's probably, let's just say a lot of the time. It is what they call normal. So if you borrow on the short end, low interest rates, and you lend out on the long end, let's go like right here. Going to borrow at the short end, lend at the long end. I'm guaranteed to make money. If I'm guaranteed to make money and I'm in the financial services industry, then what that usually happens is that usually spills over into, well, we've just went and made money. So now we can go and take those profits that we made and leverage that to make more money. So let's go and lend out more money. Let's go out and, if you're in the brokerage industry or the financial, the banks or whatever, who for the longest time were told to get the fuck out of the brokerage industry. And it just pisses me off that these stupid oligarchs have worked their way back into it. And that's half of the reason why we live in this hyperinflation world, folks, is because our world has been securitized, assholes. Anyway, if they go and make a bunch of money, then they're going to hire more analysts, more salesmen, more IPOs, right? More ICOs in the crypto space. It's the same bullshit, just different pile. And it just feeds on itself. Then, the central planners go, gee whiz, the economy is really roaring now. Maybe we have to start worrying about inflation. Or maybe conversely, maybe we just really like to slow things down a little bit and take our rates off of zero. So they start raising the interest rates, right? And you can see at some point, oh, look at that, interest rates perk back up. Then, of course, they had the sickness, which they knocked rates down. Remember, we always say this, and I think this is a really good lesson for everybody. If you ever do anything in the economy that doesn't have a direct reason because of economics, it usually is the wrong decision. So, governments incentivize their workers to make investment decisions based on calendar year end and tax policy. And 9 times out of 10, that is a horrible investment decision, i.e., selling stock off into November and December. Aren't we supposed to buy when it snows and then sell when it goes, which means you're supposed to be a buyer in November, December? But government policy encourage people to be sellers in November and December. Has nothing to do with the economy, has nothing to do with the stocks or fundamentals or anything. It is entirely tax-driven decision, and 9 times out of 10, it is the wrong decision. It's great for taxes, terrible for market timing. Well, I might argue that what they did there through that sickness had absolutely nothing to do with the economy. It was more like these PhDs all predicted something was going to happen. So they went and lowered rates down to absolutely nothing. and they've unleashed an absolute tsunami of disaster in all of our lives with regard to inflation. Terrible economic decisions based purely on fear of a sickness and what it was going to do to the economy. And of course, the humans got it completely wrong, which is so sad. Anyway, um, point here is you can see they decided, you know what, maybe having interest rates at zero like this isn't such a good idea because it leads to insane inflation. And so as a result, here we are. Now, short-term interest rates are substantially higher than longer-term interest rates. And it's taken a while to slow this bitch down. They can't slow it down, which is scary. You can see the stocks just keep surging to new highs. And then as I started the conversation off with this conversation, in the newsletter, there are actually people at the FOMC advocating for higher short-term interest rates right now, not lower interest rates. And for some stupid reason, and I think it's because part of this whole bankster crookery plan, they're trying to talk the market up as much as possible right now, which I don't like at all. I mean, theoretically, at some point down the road, this should bite and we should actually see a recession. But the irony of it all is if you take stocks to new highs, this is inflationary, folks. And if anything, the stock market is what they call the ultimate leading indicator in the economy. So if stocks are going to new highs, should you be thinking about the Fed lowering interest rates in this environment? Absolutely not. And I don't know why we get off on this, actually even conceiving that the Fed would lower interest rates. Now, there are other countries like China, for example, where the economy is actually starting to roll over. We'll see whether it actually does or not. But I would actually argue that China is in a really, really bad scenario position. And this is my whole thesis that you should not be invested in China, shouldn't be invested in Russia, shouldn't be invested in South Africa, shouldn't be invested in Australia, any of these classic commodity countries that don't actually do anything. All they do is just produce raw commodities. They're in big trouble, And it really shouldn't surprise us that Vladdy saw the writing on the walls and went, we better do something here, because if we just leave the economy to itself, I'm going to be executed, probably publicly executed, as the economy implodes here. So let's go and start a war somewhere. That's usually a great way to distract people. And honestly, that's exactly why I think he did what he did. Americans did exactly the same thing on their cycle pivot. 2000, 2001, all of a sudden, mysteriously, this manufactured war out of nowhere that cost trillions of dollars, I might even argue bankrupted the United States of America, hence the crap world that we're living in right now, dealing with that bankrupting of the society. But it was a great distraction. Did anybody think about, maybe the economy needs to take a good decade or two to reset itself following this baby boomer generation? No. Let's think about I guess you'd call him an Arab. Arabs strapping on scuba gear and potentially strapping bombs to cruise ships in Vancouver Harbor. That's an efficient way for us to spend our time and efforts and attention. Such a joke. So back to your question. Looking at the weekly charts. What time is it here? I still got 20 minutes. SPS ticker, SPX, Fed funds. We see that this isn't always the case. Well, is it always the case that that when the Fed lowers rates, the stock market goes up? No, that definitely is not the case. If anything, what I think, and keep in mind, unfortunately, your entire generation, I don't know how old you are, Ben, but we're now back into a world where money actually has value. This whole MMT nonsense, those days are over. And I think, unfortunately, that was a bit of a trap. And unfortunately, I also think that the banksters were like, okay, let them walk into that trap. We got them by the short and curlies. They are so fucked. There's nothing they can do. They are our slaves. Awesome. This is perfect. And I honestly believe that's exactly how this all goes. Rothschilds. Just remember that, folks. That is our reality. The Fed down in the States will lower rates when they see crisis. So, for instance, like 1987, I remember that specifically. Where can I show this to you? Do I have? Well, I suppose I can use this. See, this is another thing that has me a bit concerned here. There's a major warning sign coming from this thing called Dow theory. This economy is not happy here at all. I just can't buy into this whole bull market stuff. Something just doesn't smell right about this. But anyway, let's go back to 1987. I think we can use this chart. So in 87, oh God, how long ago is this? There's 2000. Here we go. There we are. So, and unfortunately, I do think that they are setting us up for a similar scenario like this. But the market broke in 87 in October, and Allen came out and said, you want credit? You can have all the credit you want. Right? He lowered interest rates dramatically. But look how long it actually took for the market to actually go and W out on a weekly basis and then actually start painting higher highs and higher lows. So it took a while, right? You might even argue that this thing was very much in doubt all the way through November of 87, right? So October, the market crashes right there, right? October, Black Friday, all that right there. And you can see November, December, into the new year, January, February, finally pivoted and the bear market was over. Actually, I think if you look in 2000, it was basically the same thing. So there's 2000, there's the break, there is October, September, October, September 11th, 2001. Interesting coincidence, maybe? Did the tail wag the dog or does the dog wag the tail? Interesting in this scenario, you can see, and of course, Alan, I remember specifically when this event, he actually testified in front of the US Congress and said, hopefully short-term interest rates, the stock market, all that, it's a secondary conversation. It's just merely nothing more than a footnote. And you can actually see that the stock market itself didn't really ultimately bottom until we got to like sort of May of 2023. So market had all its free money that it wanted, but that didn't really help it. And really, I might even argue that this was the transition of the United States of America from a consumer-based economy, dot-com boom, pets.com, I don't know if you remember all that, to we are now officially a war economy. We're going to go invade Iraq, invade Afghanistan, and everything about our society is all about murdering and killing people. The fact that completely suspicious motivations and highly suspect when we look back in hindsight, irrelevant, which is so sad. Did anybody get held to account for all of that? No, in fact, it's almost sacrilegious. You're not even allowed to talk about conspiracy theories and what actually happened through that. So it just goes to show how insanely corrupt this human species is. I mean, just insanely corrupt. Speaking of which, this was the end of George Bush Jr.'s tenure. And what was fascinating about this scenario, of course, was that Dick Cheney was one of the most hated men in American history. And it didn't really matter what anybody was going to say. And of course, we have Lehman Brothers and all that, which were nothing more than the end of a ridiculously overly inflated market. And I might even argue, I even put a blog post out that the sell signal in the stock market, you can all see it. Anybody here who has taken our education program, anybody here who knows what head and shoulders pattern is, anybody who knows what an M top is, especially on a weekly price chart, you can see that the sell signal was plain as day right there. So you can't even argue that there wasn't a lot of warning that the great financial crisis was coming. It wasn't great. It wasn't a financial, and it wasn't a crisis. This was all about a whole bunch of, Texan politicians or oil barons, whatever the hell you want to call them, just completely manipulated the market. And then as soon as they sort of knew that their tenure was over, they just rugged everybody. Everybody who works in crypto and knows what a rug pull is, that's exactly what George Bush, and I would even argue George Bush Sr. I might make the argument that George Bush Sr. Jr. was not intelligent enough to pull this con job off. This was done by Mr. Bush Sr. So anyway, of course, we go into the great financial crisis, blah, 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 blah. Interest rates down to zero. But what was it that actually put this floor in the market? And the answer is that the US government came out and said, fine, you know what? We're just going to buy up all these bad bonds. Yes, it's going to completely fuck our next generation. Talk about mortgaging your future. All of the bad bonds that they conned the Chinese into buying and all that. The Chinese just basically said, look, you buy them off us or we're just going to drive you into the ground. No more United States of America. Simple as that. And so they created the TARP program, right? Toxic Asset Relief Program, which is just a load of horse shit. They just took all those bad bonds, they bought them at face value off of the Chinese and whoever else, Goldman Sachs's, whoever they deemed, quote, too big to fail and all that nonsense. And that basically laid the stage for Mr. Obama. Mr. Obama just played ball. In fact, he kind of just didn't even do anything through all this. He turned the whole fucking U.S. economy over to the Congress, right? And that this was the whole, wow, we're going to nationalize healthcare. So our priority is going to be all about, healthcare. And I'm just going to turn it over to the Congress. And they spent like literally 2 or 3 years debating about how big the healthcare program was. And people completely forgot about the great financial crisis and all that nonsense. Anyway, so then, of course, like we said, we have our sickness. They took rates down to zero, but I might actually make the argument this was a colossal mistake. They should have never done this. And in a weird sort of way, Trump was actually advocating for them to lower interest rates. And through all of this, the Fed was kind of like, no, the economy is actually really strong. We really shouldn't lower rates. And of course, now we live in this fucked up world where I might argue that, hyperinflation is sort of the theme du jour. And now the Fed's kind of like, well, what can we do? If we lower interest rates now, you're going to get another one of these crazy ass things. What I think saved the United States of America through here, believe it or not, and this is just my opinion, is the politicians, right? Where the Congress, they quit with this stupid MMT thinking. They shifted the House of Representatives back over to the Republicans, and the Republicans said, enough is enough, stop spending money that we don't have. And in a weird sort of way, that's kind of calmed this whole situation down. How long is it going to take to resolve this and get this back to a normal economy? I have a funny feeling this is probably going to take at least another decade. We probably don't see this. In fact, I might even argue that we probably don't even see this sort of what this new world looks like until we get on the other side of 2030. And the next 6 years is going to be a slog. It's going to be a challenge. We should see, we've talked about this lots. We should see, the risk asset market do fairly well, especially if Mr. Orange Toupee comes back into power. You can kind of see the writing on the walls anyway. I mean, anybody should look at this and go, wow, that looks like an A to B, C to D, which means we are going a hell of a lot higher. Does this happen following the election? Because keep in mind, this is like a yearly price chart. Could we just maybe swoon here for the next little while and then launch our way higher? 25, 26, we've talked about that as like this is your, get rich in crypto part of this current cycle. I don't know whether Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff are going to make, 100x moves kind of idea. I will say that if you can focus in on good quality names like Sword has done, I think you can make a lot of money. Anyway, you want to play like the banging out doubles kind of approach and just see how many doubles you can bang out. Fine, do the little old lady kind of approach. I don't think you're going to lose money. We're in a bull market. I just don't know how absolutely insane the bull is. Having said that, in this kind of environment with the political elections coming up here and the stock market breaking to new highs here, as I said, Mr. Biden in Washington is going to do everything he possibly can to hold on to his job, which means he wants this stock market as high as possible into election day. How on earth can the Fed lower rates in the face of that? I just can't see it. I don't know whether I'm answering your question or not, but it is sure a fun, colorful conversation. I don't think there's going to be a Fed pivot. I think they're trying to talk the market into Fed pivot, but just based on what we saw out of the Fed minutes, there's no Fed pivot here. I think it's higher for longer. And if you're going to look for pivots, look at the commodity countries. They're the ones that are in dangerous situations right now. And I would be willing to bet dollars to donuts. And I keep cursing myself for not doing this. But what we really should be doing here is building put positions on things like the Australian dollar, on things like the Canadian dollar. I don't think you can really play the Russian ruble if it was a part of the global economy by puts on the Russian ruble. But I think the Chinese, excuse me, ooh, 3 times. That's good luck. That's my subconscious is telling me go and buy those fucking puts now, Brian. I could actually see a scenario that China turns into this cycle's Mexico. And if you remember 1980s Mexico, basically the entire society collapsed. I could very easily see China is this cycle's Mexico. And what also really scares me right now is half of the reason why Mexico went down its road was because in the 1970s, it was actually very chummy with the Soviet Union. And, they used to always say, you ever see Falcon and the Snowman? That was a great story based out of Mexico City. So the point being that didn't we just see recently the U.S. Senate is basically accusing Canada of seeding the Wuhan virus here in Canada, in Canadian sort of theoretically secure facilities that it turns out that our dear leader, total loser idiot, we all know how much I love him, actually let these Chinese CCP bastards basically run roughshod through all of our facilities. Wow. I mean, you could actually make the argument, especially if Mr. Trump gets into power, you could make the argument that the United States of America might actually start considering occupying Canada because there's just too much of a threat, especially if China goes toe to toe with something like Taiwan. The Americans might say, Mr. Who's in charge of this idiot country up here right now, if he's still there, you're too big of a threat. And We've got the biggest national border in the world. This is a little bit too scary considering how chummy you are with these CCP people. So call that a crazy ass prediction, eh? Those are the countries: Canada, Australia, Russia, South Africa. Those are the countries that if you're going to short and you're going to call for shorts, those are the countries that I think you need to be worried about. Ironically enough, the United States of America is in an incredibly powerful position right now. And I would not be looking for lower short-term interest rates out of the States. So I don't know whether that helps answer the question. Thank you for the good karmic wishes with Lily. And of course, probably going to get shot on the roads here today by my wonderful politicians, listening to how much I am not endorsing them. Anyway, question number 2. And let me know, Ben, whether that speaks to your question. Let's do a follow-up tomorrow. If I did answer your question, okay, cool. If I didn't, I'll take another shot at it in the after party tomorrow. Number 2, what time? Oh my goodness, I have no time. All right, well, I'll try and answer these. Let's see if I can do it relatively quickly, but I'm probably going to have to do number 3 in the call tomorrow. All right, hi Brian. I'm still a little confused drawing valid trend lines. Can you look at this chart example and see if I've drawn these trend lines correctly? Asset is BSSB versus Tether. Oh boy. Keep in mind, the lower you go down on the food chain with regard to assets, you're also on the HTX. Is that Hitbit? God, I don't remember that exchange. TA gets harder and harder and harder because as we do lower and lower and lower time frame and less and less sort of quality names, we get splotchier and splotchier charts. You don't have a lot of data to work with here as well, so that's a bit concerning. If anything, I'd almost suggest that you want to let this thing breathe a little bit. Valid trend lines, just really all it is just market structure. So you can see here we have a valid W. So this low, and it is confirmed on a move through that high there. So down, up, down, breakout. That now makes this, in my opinion, a valid working trend line. And I think the market tried to respect it there. It lost it, and look how it tried desperately to keep recapturing that trend line. Like it really wanted to. This is a really good example where support turns into resistance. Beautiful example of a valid trend line right there and how you would use it going forward. So it is support on the first blush, and it failed, and now it's acting as resistance. And look at that beautiful failure there, and see you later. When you're dealing with an asset that looks like this, unfortunately, this to me screams there's a lot of other information going on here that you just don't have on this price chart. What is this? Is this an ICO? Was this listed on another exchange and then all of a sudden this HTX people decided to list it? So something doesn't smell right about that. And then also too, the fact that they actually took these lows out means that there probably is other price history that you can't really use here because they're not giving it to you. So that's a little suspicious. Obviously with this absolutely insane range, it's going to be very difficult to draw trend lines. I might even argue that you could draw a trend line off of this doji peak here and maybe just even completely disregard this initial candle, because you can see there's a pretty big fight here and the doji was lost. So that means that high is probably pretty relevant. So we could draw a trend line from that high off of that high. And of course, market structure, it's confirmed right there. And so you can see same sort of logic. We are now in a downtrend line, and unfortunately, can't get that thing to go straight. Unfortunately, we're in a downtrend here until you actually get a W on the other side of this trend line. So you can see they retook it, went up. Okay, am I a W? And nope, failed. and faded. And then, okay, I'm a W. So now I think you can make the argument as of this point that this trend line has been lost and a new trend line is established. And of course, that was our conversation about this. So every time you see market structure here, you can draw a new trend line. So you could, if you wanted to, go there to there. Broken. W on the other side of trend line. That's the same conversation as that. You can go here. All right. Broken. So is this trend line still active? Yeah, notice look how we sort of slided our way back down. And interesting how the market like tried, okay, I'm going to W here, but it's fighting with this trend line. And it just couldn't accept back above there. I might even argue that if this thing could have accepted above here, it might have had some open air to run here. You could probably also do, now, I mean, there's a bunch of them, but I suppose you could do that there to there to there, which was confirmed here, right? On that event there, this is now an active trend line. So I don't know whether that helps. I mean, a couple pointers that I would just make is I don't like when I want to draw trend lines and I see this kind of funny price action because this tells me there's something else going on here. My hunch is there's probably a lot of previous lows that maybe other exchanges, maybe this thing was traded privately. I have no idea. There's something suspicious about this. Now, let that play out. Then, okay, I'm going to start drawing my trend lines. And every time I get market structure, I can draw a new trend line. So I might just say, okay, you're at this kind of stage. Maybe we can even draw, a trend line off of that high and that high. And that was broken there. Is there any buy signal? Well, give me a W on the other side of it. And it just keeps making lower lows and lower lows and lower lows. Might even argue now. And I do like the idea that if you're going to work with trend lines, that you just keep up on these things, right? Because you can there's one there. That, I think, a valid trend line here. Now we have lower highs, and look how many times this has been traded to. So once, twice, 3 times. Look at the fight. Look how the market's trying desperately to resolve it. And now, lo and behold, look at the W that's trying to come in down here. So that might be something to work with. The problem is that there's a lot of market structure here. So there's that one. I think you're probably working off of this just little fight right here. That's what's being fought over right now. You could also do another one. Every time a market structure signal comes in here, unfortunately, it does mean that's another new trend line. So what this is all kind of trying to say to me here is there is a world of resistance above you here. And, if you do the level 2 program, I guess you're doing level 1. So you should have done this. I guess you're doing level 2 if you're talking trend lines, right? You should trick out your charts. That's a resistance point. That's a resistance point. That's a resistance point. This is a resistance point. And really what's going to end up happening here is this thing really isn't a buy until it can get through all of this shit and then go and W out in the clear. And then you know that we're in a new bull market, right? And this probably makes like a big honking inverted head and shoulders. This also speaks to this whole idea that markets like to saucer bottom. So what we really want to see here, we got a whole bunch of lower highs and lower lows. That's terrible. What we really want to see, please and thank you, is can I stop making lower highs? And maybe we've got the smatterings of that. Can I stop making lower highs and actually start making higher lows? And then if we can get the W's to start coming in on the other sides of these trend lines, away we go. Now, the interesting thing about this is for certain, because this was already in there, that at some point we're going to bang into that trend line from the other side and it's going to be resistance. So do yourself a favor and just watch how this plays out. Because I think that there's probably a trade here. And, everything that we do, is this a reload short zone up top here? Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Let's go there, right there to there. Yeah, what a big surprise, 78.6 or 88.6, wicks and tails like to be. You can almost see the future predicting itself. But first, we got to start painting higher lows and higher highs. We got a lot of downtrend lines here working. And really, I don't think this thing's a bull until we get through all of these things and start making bullish structure. I don't, all right. So I don't know whether that helps. Just let me know in the document. I'll just put this image in here. Um, Go back and just watch the video again. And if what I said makes sense to you, just if you could just write in here, yep, okay, I think I understand, Brian. Appreciate the time and effort, blah, blah, blah. Did you actually already give me a chart to look at here? If you did, sorry, I didn't look at it. Oh, yeah, you did. All right. So you saw what I did. There's also other structure here, right? There to there. So why are you not taking that into account? I actually don't mind that little W. I mean, if you're a risk taker, that's not bad. We talked about, I mean, really can't wicks and tails like to be eaten. I like what you've done here. I think you could have done another one, especially off of this high to that low, that high, and then this high to that low to that high. Look at this cute little W. So you finished your study here, but I think there was plenty more lines that you could have drawn. And if anything, what you should see happen is the longer and longer this goes, the flatter and flatter these trend lines get, to the point where they actually start flattening out and sort of flatlining. And then actually you can start drawing uptrend lines off of the higher lows. And in a weird sort of way, you're actually going to see the way the market moves. And it's like a kaleidoscope. So do me a favor and just keep drawing these trend lines and just see how these trend lines go from insanely steep to less steep to less steep to less steep to less steep to actually now we're painting higher lows and higher highs and we're starting to make uptrends. All right, hope that helps. All right, I tell you what, you're asking for my advice. Never really like to give advice out. You all know that. But why don't we circle around and let's talk about this in the after party tomorrow? I don't think actually this is a good venue for giving actual investment advice. And of course, we're going to preface this with this is not investment advice. Because we certainly don't want the regulators coming after us. I'll give you my 2 cents as an investment advisor, but at the same time, too, you all fully understand that these decisions are entirely up to yourself. And if anything, what I've often suggested people to do is if you're dealing in some half decent sized numbers, then why wouldn't you have a financial advisor? Why wouldn't you at least just run the idea? And a good investment is a good investment is a good investment. I find it very hard to believe that if we have a asset that's in good trade location, has indicator confirmation, has price structure, you are taking appropriate risk given the type of risk taker you are and relative to the size of your portfolio. If you showed all of that to an investment advisor based on exactly what we teach, I would find it very hard to believe that they would argue with the idea. So let's circle back around and let's see whether you followed the process in the after party tomorrow. And then based on what you've written here, I haven't read it yet. I'll read it tomorrow morning. And let's do this as a fun assignment in the Monday after party. And then how do we craft your answers so that you can take it to your financial advisor and say, hey, look, this is the guy that I'm working with right now. This is what he's suggesting. What do you think as my financial advisor? Hopefully, he says or she says, actually, that's not a bad idea. That's the whole point of this. Having said that, you all know we are not going to be into the business of giving financial advice directly. We'll teach you the process. We'll show you how we manage our money. I'll give you my input as to whether I think it's a good idea or a bad idea. And then I'll sort of suggest that, okay, this is the conversation that you ought to have with your financial advisor. Okay, why don't we leave it at that? So everybody give me a big good luck on the roads here today with Liam. Thank you very much, Mr. Insights. Thank you very much. Diverted Light. Oh, cool name. And anybody else who's given me best wishes here for Lily and I this afternoon. I'll read your comments when I get back. All right. Have yourselves an awesome rest of your day. PMA for the win. Sure hope you got some good value out of all that. Slow and steady wins the race. All the best. The only thing Brian say to you is bye for now.